Silicon Valley has long celebrated the stereotype of the stubborn visionary, the founder who ignores every critic and bends reality to their will to build an empire. In practice, a venture built on a single set of unyielding assumptions often fractures the moment it hits real-world market friction. Statistically, this refusal to adapt is the most direct path to failure for an early-stage company. Venture capitalists treat the pitch as a test of agility. They prioritize a founder's capacity to integrate new data over the specifics of the original plan. In this environment, an inability to adapt is a deal breaker. This matrix maps a founder's openness to new ideas against their conscientiousness. The top left quadrant represents the wingnut archetype, a founder with brilliant concepts who lacks the discipline to execute based on feedback. This creates a paradox for early-stage founders. Launching a startup requires intense conviction, yet the survival of that startup requires the humility to acknowledge when that conviction is misplaced. Coachability is distinct from passive agreeableness. It involves a systematic consideration of outside advice, rather than blind obedience or subservience to investors. The most effective founders treat humility as an aggressive tool. By using it to uncover their own blind spots, they gain a significant advantage in surviving the initial funding gauntlet. The necessity of this trait is best illustrated by the career of Bill Campbell, the mentor known in Silicon Valley as the trillion-dollar coach. Campbell coached an elite tier of tech titans, including Steve Jobs. Jobs relied on Campbell's guidance throughout his second, more successful tenure at Apple. He was also instrumental to the founders of Google, helping Larry Page and his team navigate the complexities of their rapid global expansion. Even Jeff Bezos sought Campbell's counsel while building the foundation of Amazon. Campbell was famously selective. He believed a coach should only work with those willing to listen, and he refused to engage with founders unless they proved they were coachable. He screened every potential partner for intelligence, work ethic, integrity, and grit, all anchored by a demand for humility in service to the company. If the most notoriously headstrong visionaries in tech history required rigorous coaching to achieve their scale, the modern early-stage founder is no exception. Breaking down coachability reveals a three-pillar process. It begins with courage, the willingness to actively face your own blind spots and invite critique. The second pillar is humility. This is the capacity to accept imperfection and prioritize finding the objective correct answer over defending your personal preference. The third pillar is discipline. This is the physical transition from gathering feedback to executing changes in the real world. A common failure occurs when founders seek and reflect on advice, but stop before implementation, making the feedback loop useless. Completing the circuit requires careful consideration. Coachable founders systematically test advice and integrate what works. Coachability is not a personality quirk. It is a mechanical process of turning external critique into measurable gains. To measure this capability, researchers developed the Entrepreneur Coachability Scale. It serves as an objective mirror for founders to see their own capacity for growth. This diagram outlines the core competencies being tested, asking if a founder genuinely weighs feedback or merely waits to speak. It also monitors if corrective feedback triggers anger, or if the founder stays focused on the shared coaching goals. You can build this muscle through specific exercises. Start with emotional labeling. When you receive a critique, pause to identify the feeling. This prevents your ego from initiating a defensive threat response. Next, shift your timeline. Instead of asking for feedback on the past, ask your mentors for feed forward. Focus the conversation entirely on actionable suggestions for the future. Finally, utilize peer coaching. Practicing these exchanges in a low-stakes network builds your resilience before you face a high-pressure board meeting or investor pitch. The myth of the lone genius makes for a better story, but the humble entrepreneur builds the better business. True competitive advantage belongs to the founder who finds a mentor, asks a terrifying question, and possesses the discipline to act on the answer.